The huge ship carrying tens of thousands of people set sail, after being equipped with a waterproof membrane, began to fly towards the exit under the fluttering ability. Looking down at Neptune and the three children, Princess Otohime covered her face and began to cry reluctantly. It wasn't until the figure disappeared from the field of vision that he wiped away his tears and forcibly stood firm. Mother, do you have to leave father and elder brother to live in the periphery? Shirahoshi is also reluctant to wipe away his tears, although he has his favorite mother to accompany him, but a 4-year-old child suddenly says that he wants to leave the home he has been living in and live outside, and he will feel somewhat uncomfortable. This is for the future of the Fishmen Island, Shirahoshi promised his mother yesterday. Princess Otohime, who was also a bit teary-eyed, touched Shirahoshi's lowered head with a smile. Well, I'll be obedient. Shirahoshi nodded sensibly. As he spoke, Shirahoshi, who was as cute as a porcelain doll with big eyes shining, turned his head to look at the figure at the observation deck. Last night, my mother had a chat with her. It was the adult who saved the Fishmen Island, which was facing difficulties, and was willing to help mother realize the future dream of the Fishmen Island. And that adult also values himself very much, as long as he can perform well, maybe he can win the favor of Lord Moda, and in the future he can make his father, brother, and everyone in the Fishmen Island live on the real land with yourself. Also listening to her daughter's heart, Otohime was both happy and sad. She loves her daughter, but in the face of the lives and future of millions of people on the Fishmen Island, as a princess, she has no way not to care. It can only be the first time in his life that he used what he thought was a white lie to his daughter. Different from Princess Otohime, who has a complicated heart. Active populations are screened and counted as high-quality residents where fish are brought in. Today, I feel the land scenery on the sea, and experience the scene under the real little boy sun at this moment. It is all a beautiful longing and expectation for the future. At the same time, such a big incident happened on the Fishmen Island. Due to its special nature, the news was quickly spread to Mariajoy's authority because of the fact that government spies were included. When they first heard that Moda came to the Fishmen Island, the 5 people couldn't help but feel relieved. They didn't breathe a sigh of relief until they heard all the information, the flag given by Moda and the number of people they took away. Immediately after suppressing the incident of the Fishmen Island, the 5 elders began to think whether the intensity was too much. After all, they don't intend to remove the member countries of the Fishmen Island, and they don't want to see the possibility that the Fishmen Island belongs to Moda. After this incident, the 5 elders decided to relax the sanctions on the Fishmen Island. As for the celestial dragons, using some power and giving up some compensation can still suppress this topic that has been going on for several years. For example, the founder Roar Yabe Palace. It seems that after losing her husband, she realized something. After gradually getting rid of her dandy image over the years, she took advantage of the power of her own 2 families to grasp more and more power. Now she is considered a leader among female celestial dragons. For Luo Ariabe, who has rarely started to make progress, and has a good background and abilities, the 5 elders don't mind letting her go one step further from this power. Therefore, the world government clearly emphasized the Marie Joyce incident a few years ago in the next 7 days of meetings, which ended after the Sun Pirates were imprisoned. The Fishmen Island is still a member country of the world government, and it is a symbol of the will to establish the world government. The process is naturally as long as the good words come. With such a statement at the meeting, and the fact that the celestial dragons also stopped, the wise kings of the franchise countries naturally denied the topic of removing the Fishmen Island status as a franchise country. During the 7-day meeting, Moda returned to the Wanokuni Sea area. Immediately, a group of loud cheers spread to the flying ship, attracting the attention of the residents of Mermaid Island. But maybe it was the first time seeing so many human beings, and they all leaned in the direction of Princess Otohime as if praying for a sense of security. The residents below naturally also noticed the new residents on the ship, especially under the advance report of the time manager and Princess Rihei. They naturally showed welcome expressions and shook their hands like the former small people. Is that the guest of the Fishmen Island? Really, the people are beautiful. The Murlocs don't seem to be as vicious as imagined. I heard that they have 10 times the wrist strength of ordinary people. Really, then our Wanokuni has another group of powerful races. I don't know if I can get in touch with them, just don't be as special as 9 snakes. Standing on the deck, Princess Otome bit her red lips lightly with her white teeth. She is born with the color of knowledge and can listen to the voices of others. This is the 10th time she has used it on a large scale among the people in the town below. The feedback she got made her eyes moisten involuntarily. What she heard was approval, cheers, curiosity, and the difficulty of accepting the smaller voices in the crowd. Regardless of what appears on the surface, Princess Otohime firmly believes that a person's heart cannot lie. There was no discrimination and disgust from the different species of humans and murlocs that she was worried about. Even if some people find it difficult to accept because of their appearance, it is something that Princess Otohime thinks is perfectly normal. It would be better to say that this is more true than the unanimous praise. Moreover, the views brought about only by appearance will gradually change with the gradual exchange of life. Perhaps it can really be realized, as if the switch to control the lacrimal gland was turned on, Princess Otohime burst into tears one by one. The dream that I have pursued all my life has finally seen the dawn. Immediately afterwards, she looked at her daughter who was also curious beside her, and the thoughts in her heart became even higher. Shirahoshi, who is valued by Moda, must be the key to this new bridge. The integration of the mermaid race is relatively simple for the current Wanokuni. Under the absolute obedience of General Moda's reputation, it is somewhat more regular than Big Mom's multi-ethnic nations. It was originally a colorful coastline for entertainment, but now after the influx of mermaids, it slowly began to be built according to the most distinctive mermaid bay, and gradually became another most beautiful scenic spot in Wanokuni. Mermaid coffee shop, well-known clothing store, special snacks, and the most symbolic bay scenery. Immediately, the colorful coast became the place where Wanokuna's traffic accounted for the largest proportion besides the capital of flowers. Although she is no longer a princess, Moda still gave Otohime the general management rights of this colorful coast, so as to better adapt this group of new races to Wanokuni management. This is the changing situation within Wanokuni. And outside, because of giving the Fishmen Island flag, and issuing external warnings. Forced by Moda, who has the power to destroy the world and has a strong pursuit ability, the Fishmen Island, which has been disturbed by pirates, has got rid of the situation that pirates have expanded year by year in recent years. For this reason, the two forces of Whitebeard and Moda began to have contradictions and conflicts. Although it is limited to the extent of minor troubles, no one knows how the follow-up development will be. This has undoubtedly become what the world government and marine want to see most. And Moda didn't pay much attention to this issue, and let the troops under his command handle it by themselves. Although it is a trouble, Moda will not be so afraid of Whitebeard, who is now suffering from injuries and gradually declining from his peak. After the Fishmen Island incident, killing two birds with one stone, Moda not only gained the control of Poseidon, Shirahoshi, but also allowed Mariajoy's Shadow Guard to further increase his power. Rorjaby Palace, played by Katrine, has opened up the political gates between the powers, and has come into contact with more and more secrets. Of course, not only this, but the deployment of Shadow Guards also used the authority of the government to a certain extent, because Moda sought information on interests. This kind of huge organization is operating all over the world, but it is faster to find Bacala who has taken the lucky fruit for Moda than under the influence that is still spreading. Time. Start to overdo it. The birth of a piece of news began to make the Red Hair Pirates, wandering in the first half in the world famous all over the world. The country of music, Elegia, the whole country was massacred by the ex-pirate king Luogia's crew member, the red-haired Shanks, at a birthday banquet. In an instant, its bounty soared to 1.04 billion Baileys, and it was recognized by the world as the most evil newcomers. Seeing this newspaper, Moda smiled. He knew that there was another top-level devil fruit that could be obtained in Elegia. And without the protection of the red-haired group, the Shadow Guards would be able to bring the singing girl Uta back from the hands of the music king, Gordon, even without the imperial court. At the same time, after receiving the lucky blessing of the top buff, Moda began to take the lucky girl Bacala to the sea, looking for the result of the blessing of good luck. On the sea, calm, in Grand Line, a small country called Tweetbor, its residents have been in a state of disaster for several days, and the country has been paralyzed for a period of time. So in the past few days, after the country returned to normal, disaster days have been designated, and people all over the country can be forced to take a holiday during this period and stay at home with peace of mind, so as not to go out and cause trouble. But the real culprit who caused this situation is looking at Moda with respect and admiration. In this sea, advocating the strong is the most common mentality of most people, especially the weaker women. In front of Moda, who learned that she was brought to be the emperor of the new world, a top powerhouse, such a lucky girl was completely convinced on the spot and became like a little girl, thinking that this experience belonged to her. Lucky. I'm slowly starting to feel it, Master Moda. Baccarat, who was at the rudder, said, I can feel more and more that luck is calling to me. It's just given the ability to fly, and all routes are blindly directed by Baccarat, who has absorbed the luck of several towns. Not long after Baccarat finished speaking, Moda, who had been expanding observation haki, suddenly felt something. Then he suddenly got up and looked in the direction where Baccarat was controlling the navigation. Wow! Huge water waves, rippling from layer to layer in the distant sea area, drove the seawater, setting off one after another huge waves with a height of tens of meters. Everything seems to indicate that there is some huge monster passing through this deep and invisible seabed, thus producing this kind of vision. Moda looked out to sea. The terrifying fluttering ability immediately drives the effect of assimilation, locking onto the target's seawater. Boom. The sponge immediately rioted, and the countless seawater seemed to be pulled by an invisible hand, and lost all gravity, and was abruptly pulled away to a vast height and perspective.
My lord, you are really amazing. Baccarat, who was deeply shocked by this scene, exclaimed like a fanatical star chaser.
Immediately afterwards, Baccarat, who stared wide-eyed, saw a dazzling incandescent lamp under the sea that was indirectly broken. It was dusk now, but the huge ball of light illuminated this area. It wasn't until she got used to the terrifying white light that Baccarat saw clearly that it was actually a giant lanternfish. Its incomparably huge body is as large as a kilometer or even 10,000 meters. Compared with this ship, it is no different from facing an island. Coupled with that terrifying and ferocious appearance, Baccarat felt terrified all over her body and her scalp went numb. But Moda, looking at this huge lanternfish, laughed a little excitedly, leaned over and stamped its forehead as a reward. Sure enough, Baccarat, you are a lucky girl who can definitely make people's wishes come true. It was said that Baccarat showed a happy smile. Although she was a little unclear, it was her lucky guide. This huge lanternfish definitely had an extraordinary effect. Looking at the huge lanternfish in front of him, Moda's eyes were extremely hot. He is convinced that the luck that Baccarat brought this time is precisely the pure gold lanternfish in his body that can prolong life. What pure gold means is most clear to Moda, who is familiar with the plot. This is a miracle created by scientists. It is a super heavy treasure that can almost stop the loss of vitality. It is another heavy treasure that can make people comparable to or even surpass the age of giants besides the known immortality surgery in this world. And with this, not to mention allowing people to maintain their peak state for a long time, including their retainers, they will also have the cards to wait for true immortality. Boom. The giant lanternfish also seems to have discovered the flying boat that disturbed it. Undercurrents surged under the seabed, and the water surface roared up directly. Like a sudden explosion after condensing to a certain point, the giant lanternfish was directly released from the bottom of the sea. The huge surging volume suddenly jumped to the level of hundreds of meters, and opened its huge mouth towards the flying battleship where Moda was, like a shadow covering the sky and covering the sun. Just look at it. Moda's size, before the size of the other side's pull, may not even be as good as a dirt on the teeth. Even with the huge mouth opening like an abyss, the seawater that gushes out can even form a violent waterfall. Buzz. The autumn sakura in Moda's hand instantly spread a terrifying sword force. Call out. The swung slash wave formed dozens of times the moment it flew out, directly cutting off the blazing, huge lantern in front of the lanternfish. At the same time, the accompanying terrifying aura and domineering entanglement directly shattered the lantern inside, exposing the bright and dazzling sun inside. It made it impossible to look directly at it, illuminating the entire sea near here. It's dazzling. Is that gold? Baccarat narrowed her eyes subconsciously, and after noticing what the sun was, she shouted in shock. This is not gold, and it is more meaningful than gold. This is pure gold, according to legend. Its value can buy the whole world. Moda also stared at the huge golden ball maintained by Piao Piao's ability. Its ability can delay the passage of life, and even achieve immortality. Hearing Moda's explanation, Baccarat's eyes immediately lit up. Maybe some people can refuse the priceless gold, but absolutely no one can refuse the temptation of immortality, especially those women who love beauty. Roar. The severe pain in the head made the giant lanternfish howl terribly. At the same time, after feeling the momentum of the conquerors, he didn't dare to continue to show off his power at all, and suddenly turned his body around in midair, immediately changed his thinking from launching an attack, and wanted to return to the sea to stay away from this terrifying human being. It's just that after it made a move to escape, Moda had already controlled the seawater and dragged it into the air forcefully. Although all the pure gold saved by this lanternfish over the years has been obtained, there are still laboratories related to it inside. After controlling the lanternfish, Moda cut again from the air. The fierce swordsmanship cut the lanternfish as large as an island in half, exposing its huge and complicated internal structure. There are 3 stomachs in this giant lanternfish, and each stomach can contain an island, and in the bottom third stomach, Alchemy Island, there is a laboratory for research and development of pure gold. Of course, he wouldn't directly break into the internal stomach, anyway he knew the result, so he would dissect it directly, clean and safe. Then, under the horrifying and extremely precise flying slash, Moda quickly cut the laboratory for research and development of pure gold in his memory, in front of him. Afterwards, he used his ability to transfer it to his own ship. The size of an ordinary house, there are neatly arranged books and research materials, including various metal minerals. These are the institutions directly under Moda's plan to be handed over to the scientific research team. Although such a large amount of pure gold has been obtained, it must be more than enough for people who are useful to Moda. But it is not certain that these documents, for those scientists, can restore the technology of pure gold, or even a step closer. After Moda thought about it and dealt with it, the sea area below also began to riot. It turned into countless chopped lanternfish flesh and blood, piled up and sprinkled to the bottom of the sea. Endless blood gushes out like a waterfall, dyeing the sea area within several thousand meters in an extremely ominous scarlet. Immediately, the undercurrent of the bottom of the sea surged, and the fish attracted by the flesh, sea kings, began to pile up on each giant fish and compete for food. He just took away the pure gold ring, and he didn't have any intention of closing in on the two father and daughter Sauda who had seen the sun again in their stomachs. Not to mention the sloppy daughter, but her father, who has been out of touch with the world for 200 years and has backward knowledge. Naturally, there is no reason why Moda should have the ability to value. So for the two people looking at more and more sea kings in horror, and constantly biting flesh and blood, Moda ignored their cries for help, and turned his attention back to the huge pure gold sphere. Because it is too dazzling, especially in the situation that it is about to be dark now. After thinking for a while, Moda took out the black cloth and used the Momo fruit to cover it directly, and then used Piao Piao's ability to completely cover it, reducing its dazzling visibility. However, due to its huge size, it can only be brought around the flying ship as a rotating sphere. Sure enough, if it can be enlarged and shrunk, to some extent, Momo fruit will be a superb ability. Thinking of this, Moda waved his hand while looking at what looked like a Poseidon tide. The sea surface was lifted high again, and the blue seawater at the bottom turned into a huge tsunami that soared into the sky, smashing hard on the sea kings who were surrounded by blood, and smashing the troublesome blood domain, pressed to the bottom of the sea. After dealing with these details, Moda immediately took control of the ship to deal with the aftermath. Previously, many ships around us noticed the dazzling light here. Since they saw something they shouldn't see, Moda had no choice but to ask them to bring this secret back to the bottom of the sea. Anyway, this kind of thing is the most common thing in this grand line. Similarly for Moda, it is simply a matter of thinking. After passing through the pure golden lanternfish, Moda also somewhat understood the effect of Baccarat's luck. There is no doubt that the higher the lucky savings plundered from others, the higher the probability of triggering what one wishes will come true. In this way, a lucky girl with her own treasure hunting attribute, after Moda brought the giant pure gold back to Wanokuni, she was directly promoted to a special, lucky, member of the imperial court. After learning the general situation, everyone wanted to get the blessing of good luck, and Bacala was very popular for a while. Especially when Gion, who was practicing against Mihawk, felt more and more weak in strength and was about to be surpassed by the opponent. Fortunately, he took Bacala directly and went out for a period of time, intending to find someone who can strengthen himself and match his own wishes. Fruit. The price for this is naturally another day of bad luck for a town or even a country. However, although there is a probability that what you want will come true, after all, you are sailing in the lucky direction in the vast sea, and the time spent is at least calculated on a monthly basis. Therefore, Moda did not continue to follow. In addition to arranging the affairs of pure gold, he also needs to deal with the singer Uta who was brought over by the Shadow Guard. Relying solely on the ability of the powerful devil fruit and having a way to grab the fruit, Moda will no longer take pains to change the attitude of the owner little by little. If the other party is as loyal to himself as Bacala, then Moda doesn't mind reusing the other party. The result was also as predicted by Moda. With the opponent's stubborn personality after the country was destroyed, and the hatred of pirates after being abandoned by the Red Hair, it is naturally a strong negative result for loyalty Moda. Even the intensity of the resistance, if it wasn't for Moda's anticipation to ask the people present to prepare earplugs in advance, they might be forcibly drawn into that terrifying and invincible space. Under these circumstances, the singer Uta can only be given a negative evaluation. The consequences are naturally obvious. Now with Tun Tun's guarantee, and the opponent's various resistance and obvious thoughts, Moda does not intend to follow the old routine of capturing people's hearts, but let Compass use the ability of Munch Munch fruit to re-extract the fruit of songs decisively come out. Paramecia Gurgur fruit is equivalent to Infinite Tsukuyomi's ability to destroy the world. In order to maximize its effect, Moda began to think about cultivating a world superstar singer as the next ability user. Soon, a name appeared in his mind, Karina. She is also a very popular and sweet singer in the future, not only has a beautiful singing voice, but also has a flexible mind, superb theft technology and excellent intelligence gathering capabilities. After training, she can even achieve not only being a world superstar singer, but also becoming an important member of the Shadow Guard. And unlike UTA, who has undergone drastic changes and has undergone drastic changes in temperament, he is now in the same age group as Nami, but it is relatively easy to control. After having an idea, Moda immediately ordered that the Shadow Guards from the world government start to act immediately. In addition to the network of relationships spread all over the world, it was only a matter of time. Half-year later, the sky is bright and the air is clear, with long white clouds. Under such an excellent weather, Moda lay leisurely on a chair under the shade of a tree. But instead of watching Hancock and Yamato fighting in the training ground, he was watching today's Shibao brought by Robin. This year, the Red Hair Pirates, who just became famous because of Tu Guo, reappeared in the Grand Line, and unlike before, their missing arm was recorded in the newspaper as an enlarged close-up. All of a sudden, this kind of thing, as the red-haired Shanks who is now on the absolute mission in the first half, has sparked a lot of research. Seeing this, Moda smiled in his heart. The so-called New Era bet, has it begun? I just don't know if these people's wishes can still be realized under the premise of me. Or in other words, what they expect is nothing more than the pawns that fall into my chessboard. Boom. On the training ground, the sound of bombardment intertwined with thunder and powerful force continued to be heard. Under the more and more proficient tyrants, the environment of this practice field is full of strong winds and constant noise. It was clear that the sky was clear before, but now it seems that a disaster has come. The clouds in the sky are broken apart, and there is a howling sound. Seeing that the conqueror's confrontation became more and more obvious, Moda shifted his attention from the newspaper to the two women again. Until another collision, it was obvious that Yamato's domineering entanglement was more powerful. Hancock was knocked back several steps and fell into a disadvantage. Seeing this, Yamato giggled and laughed loudly with his hands on his hips. Hey, I won again this time. Hearing this, Hancock bit his finger lightly, showing unwillingness on his face, especially in front of that adult, so he pointed to Yamato, looked up and said, "Don't be complacent, although you won this time, to some extent, the concubine the body is far beyond you." As she spoke, she reached out and stroked her hair, exposing the pure gold earrings. Yamato saw something, put his hands behind his head, and said without much concern, "I don't care about these," and Moda said that when I grow up, these will be given to me. My concubine said far more than you, not just this. Hancock smiled contemptuously. This is an area that Yamato still doesn't understand. He tilted his head, and then his body turned into lightning, and he disappeared in place. In the blink of an eye, he came to Moda. "This time I win again, Moda." Hearing Yamato's voice, Hancock's expression changed, and then he twisted his cheongsam, and also quickly came to Moda's side. "I'm just careless. If I continue to fight, the result may not be certain." The two are on the left and the right, like competitors, next to Moda. All of them were extremely heavy, as if his two arms were buried in some terrible place. Originally, Yamato had no idea about competing for favor. She had a freewheeling personality and followed Moda according to her will and likes. It's just that after being regarded as an opponent by Hancock, they began to be in a fun competition. Now that I'm older, I know more and more. Recalling the goal of Moda's most important retainer, Yamato became more active when Hancock was on the court. They are both heavenly girls. Although their personalities are very different, they naturally have a strong heart for each other, so Moda didn't stop them and was happy to see their success. After all, there is such a layer of reason that the two of them have become more proficient in begging after the domineering in recent years. The restricted area and scientific research base after reconstruction of Wanokuni. The location is in the middle of the weapon processing factory near Rabbit Bowl, the military base of Babu Port, and the Amazon Lily Fortress. Under the double protection of resources and armed forces, this is undoubtedly the core area of Wanokuni's current restricted area. The huge research area, Moda, receives greetings from every direction. At the same time, with the continuous expansion of its own power, Wanokuni is not only coming from outside, but also including local people, and the scientific research team is getting bigger and bigger. To be able to enter here, in addition to knowledge and technology hardware clearance, the most important thing is to be able to listen to the inner loyalty test through MODA. After all, the importance of it is a curve that occupies at least 30% of Wanokuna's future situation. Among the scientific research bases, like Yudingfan, with the continuous expansion of the forces, there are also different levels of high and low levels. Life-oriented technology application, concept design of new technology, large-scale manufacturing of new weapons, factor code interpretation, artificial fruit maintenance and development, pure gold extraction research, memory shape alloy technology tree, etc. The difference between high and low is the leap from life to arms, from the old era to the new era. The beginning of the interpretation based on the factor code alone is that the scientific research base is placed in the forbidden area in the center of the three. Also, starting from here, there will be professors who specialize in teaching factor coding courses, and then scientific research scholars with improved qualifications, experience, and abilities will begin to slowly enter the research team directly under MODA. Go straight to the largest experimental center that is built deep in the core area. This is the area of factor coding, and it is also the place where top-secret experiments are started. Each door has a certified defense system made of unique scientific and technological equipment, which is difficult to break through even the highly concentrated thunder bombardment. The highest zone that can only be entered with a special identity card that matches it. MODA easily crossed the threshold of protection. On the way, I also saw the Dongtada tribe who were collecting and maintaining artificial fruits for cultivation. Because of the expansion of the scientific research base, in order to facilitate their work, a part of the jungle area was established here to facilitate the small people. Saying hello to the cute little people who are scheduled for this week, MODA Fang is to enter the track channel and go directly to the deepest new technology tree to discover. The direction of pure gold is not in a hurry, so MODA will not bother this group of scientific research teams. After scanning the mechanical door, it slowly opened towards both sides, and MODA stepped into the memory shape alloy operated by Compass, including the laboratory where the scientific research team of Geisa and other directly affiliated institutions are located. There is a range of thousands of meters, like a giant processing factory, and there is even a next-level area, which contains various mechanical instruments with complete facilities. The training room, manufacturing room, and research room are all integrated in it, and on the back, there is a unique testing site built facing outward. Lord MODA. A cheerful voice sounded not far away, and then under the eyes of the scientists, BABY5 jumped into MODA's arms. Baby 5, which has the fruit of weapons, is here not only to provide scientists with special research on weapons. In the research institute of this new alloy technology tree, the knowledge and scientific research achievements possessed are the places where the strength can be improved the most. Now only 13 years old, after mastering a certain amount of two-color hockey, the strength he possesses has completely surpassed that of the killer maid in her 20s in the original book. Especially with the successful manufacture of energy weapons and the increasingly versatile functions of the new battle suits, BABY5 can even become a multi-capable person who combines multiple transformation suits. After changing the distorted personality that everyone needs, as the technology tree expands, it will become stronger in the future, but it can become the only killer maid who serves herself. After catching the coquettish Baby 5, the rest of the scientists also began to salute after seeing the core bone. Scientists are often immersed in the professions in their minds, and sometimes even Geisa or Comps can't bring the other party back to their senses. However, as the rulers of the Wanokuni Sea area today, the scientists who also serve him can miraculously put down their research and express their respect. You continue to be busy with your own business, MODA nodded and said. He didn't come here specially for the so-called vanity to listen to these scientists say hello. But even if a special case is given, these scientists don't have to respect themselves when they are busy, and it will still be the same next time. Over time, MODA just let them go. Comps, how is the embryo doing? After letting Baby 5 hang for a while, MODA just put it down and walked towards the manufacturing room with the largest area in the center. This is the core experimental structure of the current concrete form alloy technology tree. An underground institution similar to the original Germa 66. However, the difference is that it is not a clone of life in the nutrient solution. Each of them is a structured mechanical body. These are life robots that are manufactured through the latest memory shape alloys and can be substituted with blood factor codes. A little more specific instructions. That is the future pacifist form that appeared in the Summit War, a war weapon that crossed the age. Everything is stable, and the factor programming of the shape framework has been constructed, and it only needs to be perfected and stabilized in the subsequent stages. Comps replied. Guy, who also slowly shifted his focus from smile to this point, also took the initiative to explain. Master Moda, everything has been constructed according to what you said. At that time, we will be able to manufacture in batches the top kendo geniuses and physical masters with superpowers who will complete the integration of biological factors and other energy factors. Of course, what you're looking forward to the most is what you said, importing the biological factor of a natural monster like Big Mom, which has the defense and attack power of that monster. Pair it with the weapon I developed, and it must be the strongest. Weapons of war. As if anticipating that situation, Guy burst into blood. But this is not a delusion, but a fact that is about to be realized. Moda looked at each of the embryonic mechanical bodies, showing a sarcastic smile. Listed under each link, each nodding robot has a different shape and posture, but this change of shape is the simplest. They can only execute orders and are obedient, and they also have the defense of steel balloons, the high resilience of memory forms, and the mechanical army that can also import devil fruit abilities. Just thinking about Moda makes me a little excited. But before that, you have to build a pacifist with a railgun. The action began to be premeditated. A large part of the giant pure gold, which is several times larger than 10 giant ships combined, has been divided into small ornaments according to Moda's requirements. Each of them is pure gold that can greatly slow down the loss of vitality of the human body and prolong one's own lifespan. Now that they brought them back, Moda had no intention of taking them all, and generously distributed the jewelry to each other. The effect is naturally to be used in the hands of Moda's valued retainers and subordinates. Not only does it make his retainers and subordinates more loyal to him, but it also allows the power he values to have a longer retention period. Especially when it was applied to Manshueli, the restoration ability of its most advanced usage, and under the influence of the pure gold ring, although it still needs to be used by reducing the lifespan, the level of consumption has dropped sharply to how much it used to be. 10th concept. This can even be ignored directly with this side effect. It is enough to see how terrifying the impact of a pure gold ring that can make people live forever. It was just a week after this, not long after, even longer than when I went to sea to find a pure gold ring. After about half a year, Gion finally got the ability to be satisfied and returned home with the long-awaited Baccarat. Compared with pure gold, it seems that it is more laborious to search for the devil fruit that comes true in the sea. According to Baccarat, who complained in her arms, they set off from New World, went around on the way, absorbed the luck supplements of no less than 5 townspeople, and finally got a paramecia acceleration fruit on a remote island in West Blue. Without Moda's flight acceleration, the journey is hard, but the ability obtained is very satisfying. Accelerate fruit. According to its name, the ability is easy to understand, that is, it can affect acceleration. It can allow the user to accelerate himself or when he comes into contact with certain objects, to accelerate the speed of slashing, to accelerate movement, to accelerate reaction, etc. The assimilation brought about by awakening can even accelerate the surrounding objects. At the same time, natural ability also has its limits. The degree of acceleration depends on the physical condition of the user. The faster the speed, the stronger the pressure. Once the pressure limit is exceeded, the physical strength will be extremely exhausted, which will lead to physical injury, serious and even loss of lifespan. But even so, the power of this fruit is beyond doubt. Even in terms of this speed rule concept, its acceleration effect is more comprehensive than the change of Moda's doubling speed. Paired with Gion, which used to be named Momoshagi, it goes without saying how much the improvement has been. Even, Moda couldn't help thinking of a sentence. Time is about to start speeding up. Of course, this is just the idea of the word acceleration, but if it can be developed into a regular ability, it will not affect the world, and the conceptual acceleration that affects the surrounding time and situation can also cause very terrifying changes. Based on this, it seems that you also need to increase your physical strength. Hearing this, Gion stopped to show his abilities, and the countless phantoms produced by the excessive speed gradually solidified. Really? Gion shook her arm, feeling the ability she was already familiar with. After these days before returning to her country, she knew the direction to change. Based on the awakening direction mentioned by Moda, she knows that the premise is still to allow the body to reach the limit after breaking through the acceleration. However, based on what I have now, although the effect of acceleration is not as good as your 100-fold gain, it's not much worse. Gion looked at Moda. If she didn't know that the gap in strength was still too big, maybe she would have to fight with him a few more times. But Moda can't. For Mihawk, she can use this ability to maintain her advantage in battle. Even Koshiro, who feels that if he uses acceleration, he is not sure that he will have a high probability of defeating him. The weak and the strong take the fruit separately, and of course the effects are different. Don't look at Gion being tall and slender. He can become a vice admiral, not only because of his superb swordsmanship, but also because of the strength in his body. Especially the life return of Grandmaster Marine 6 styles, but you can't judge your physique just by its appearance. Gaining the ability to accelerate, Gion, who is even more powerful, immediately caught the attention of Hancock. Attention can't help but hit Bakula, who has just returned. Of course not for herself, after all, Moda had guaranteed her fruit ability, and Hancock never took it to heart. What he thinks now is naturally to continue to use his lucky blessings to find treasures that make Moda happier. Just like she remembered, named Dark Devil Fruit. This situation, put on Bakula, who has just come back for a few days, is naturally a little reluctant. She joined the Yuding fan, and she also recognized her status as a retainer, so of course she was happy to make trouble in Shaw. But she has only been here for less than a year, and she has not even stayed in this country for 3 months. She also wants to relax. Especially when I went out with Gion for more than half a year. But I don't want to offend too much the popular man beside Moda, the 9-Snake Emperor who became famous in the Flame Festival last year. In addition, it is not yet a 2-person tour with Moda, so when following Kozuki, the manager who is the symbol of gentleness, I find Moda and explain it in a tactful way. Listening to Bakala's words, Moda smiled, and it was indeed something that haughty temper would do. Compared with Albert, who makes himself happy, Hancock doesn't care about other people's opinions and other issues. However, Bakura has become a retainer, and even a member of the royal court, and Moda will not start to squeeze the other party because of his excellent ability. He is not a devil. After asking Robin to explain to Hancock as his wish, Moda couldn't help thinking. After obtaining the acceleration fruit in Gion, he thought of the more skilled Hancock and Yamato. Today's Wanokuni has undergone nearly 8 years of changes compared to before, and all aspects have been improved after a solid foundation. Whether it is the army, or the main combat forces, or even arms technology, medical energy and so on. From this point of view, the goal of completely annexing all nations can indeed begin. After all, compared to the treasure that luckily found, what Moda is looking forward to now is the conspicuous big cake of New World. Not just guarantees of Wanokuni resources. Leaving from the scientific research base again, the experimental electromagnetic gun mechanical core has already started production, and Moda has also obtained the second batch of combat suits with various capabilities, the successful application guarantee. With this factor in mind, Moda began to issue pre-war economic preparations in Wanokuni. It is a big exporter of weapons and food, but the supplies necessary for combat are easily stored successfully. At the same time, in terms of medical treatment, Moda also let Man Shirley start mining blood donation dandelions that can be stored for a long time at the military base. Orderly preparations are proceeding slowly in the still peaceful and prosperous country. Although it is only carried out in the military-industrialized Renwu port, it is still a large-scale storage and transportation after all, and those who are interested will naturally notice something. More or less residents saw that this was probably because the general was about to order a large fleet to set sail. Although they were curious, they all tacitly continued their usual behavior, and while supporting each other, they did not cause any problems for the general and his subordinates. So in Wanokuni, it didn't make too much noise. But for those seamless flies, they will all come here for it. At Wanokuni, co-author of the Street Girl Alley, there is a street that is mainly pink and full of decorations. This is the underground world of Stussy in Wanokuni's industrial chain area Happy Street branch, and at the same time, it is also the area where the spies are located. Although the alley for street girls in China is also very popular, it is an old-fashioned happy neighborhood in New World after all. Apart from the most popular Mermaid Bay and the forbidden Amazon Lily, it is the most popular among Wanokuni men. Bars, music and dancing and other red light districts are the easiest events to obtain information, especially under the temptation of alcohol and beautiful escorts. Naturally, the spy agency personnel arranged by Stussy have gradually captured the changing wind direction of Wanokuni at this moment. So, far away in the orthodox Happy Street area of New World, Stussy, who has a delicate face and a stunner-like figure, received relevant information from spies. Wanokuni's resources are being gathered in a large scale, and it seems that a large force is about to go out. Being able to sit and control the special Happy Street organization and Stussy, who is also located in the CPO, the abilities are definitely not low. Just after hearing the information, Stussy thought a lot in an instant. There is no doubt that Moda, who is now the Emperor of the New World, wants to go out, and it is a large-scale situation. There is only one possibility, and that is war. As for the war, Stussy thought of the recent conflicts with the Whitebeard pirates over the Mermaid Island flag issue. Air Admiral, you're not going to start a war against the Whitebeard pirates, are you? Two big wars with the ability to destroy the world? Just thinking about that scene made her shudder. Stussy slowly speculates on the direction of the information. Although it is not certain, from the analysis of recent events, Whitebeard's statement is the most likely. But it was only possible, and Stussy couldn't take it as a conclusion, so he could only convey it based on the report that the Air General planned to go out on a large scale. This shocking news, the world government immediately attached great importance to it. There is no doubt that the war initiated by the Emperor of the Sea will cause a huge impact in New World, which has been stable for several years now. Of course, attention belongs to attention. If the target of Moda's war is the four emperors of the same level, they are absolutely happy to see the situation where the dog bites the dog. And the Wanokuni side that is now attracting attention. At this time, the sun hangs high in the sky, and the sun shines down. It illuminates the magnificent sea surface crystal clear, and is filled with warm colors everywhere. On the spacious coast, it is obviously located in the inland sea of Wanokuni, but there are golden waves rolling to the shore again and again. It is said to be the inland sea, but it is not the inland sea of Wanokuni. The seascape here is an artificial sea area built by moving islands and seawater. Not only is it equivalent to a leisure and entertainment area, but it is also an exclusive island specially built for training the mermaid princess Shirahoshi. This place is also one of the restricted areas, and only the main subordinates such as Yuabin can enter and enjoy it. Inside, it is connected to the colorful coast. Although it is a practice place, it is also a beautiful tourist attraction after construction. The crisp smile echoed from time to time on the golden sand. Beautiful and youthful girls are cheering and sitting on various rides, exuding an atmosphere that fascinates men. The arms, as white as creamy white jade, set off bursts of water splashes on the shore, reflecting a flickering light. Beach volleyball is the most common activity on the coast. However, it is relatively rare to use the ability. In particular, Hancock and Yamato are the main characters respectively, with cobwebs, ghosts, and calendar endowments attached. Under the turbulent ups and downs, Moda's heart is constantly surpassing the beauty of the Golden Coast at the moment. This grand scene with different styles, not to mention, it is extraordinarily feast for the eyes to watch. Luo directly lost the right to play in this project because it was designated as an operation space that broke the rules by several people, so he followed Kuina and Zoro to comprehend Gion's temporary teachings. Although it is preparations for wartime, Moda at this moment is as comfortable as usual, and even some of the main retainers such as Yuabin who have time to arrange are enjoying the relaxation before the war. After receiving the cold drink from Robin, Moda smiled and said, "There should be some action at the Happy Street branch. Among our shadow guards, many Stussy spies secretly reported with phone bugs." As Robin said, he crossed his hands, dazzled by hundreds of flowers, and brought trays of fruit cold drinks to the royal court fans who were playing on the coast. Just let them go. This battle is destined to be difficult to cover up. After all, there are flies planted by the world government on Big Mom's side, so let's just open it up. Now, Moda has all kinds of capital that are not afraid of being robbed by outsiders. Robin nodded. She didn't say anything. As the manager, she knew Moda the most. Before major events, there must be a calculating style. She is an absolutely wise adult. It's just right. Let's discard some unstable chess pieces and let them explode on the Cake Island, as an appetizer for the opponent in this operation. Moda ordered the arrangement, and then looked at Shirahoshi who was very close to Nami, Rihei and others recently. The waves hit one by one, and 5 or 6 Sea Kings rushed out to break through the sea. These are huge groups of Sea Kings, enough to easily crush ordinary ships. At the moment, under the cute lowly mermaid, she is showing a docile appearance, and she is carrying the girls, playing on the sea like a water vehicle. In less than a year, Poseidon's power also began to be revealed slowly. Night. The moonlight is sparse and bright, and the stars are like embellishments. Even in the wartime stage, the fame of the Fire Festival is still held as the main event of the year, held under the Hanabi, which is celebrated nationwide. It's just different. This year, however, there were no usual competitions and invitations to the Flame Festival. As the New World is about to usher in a huge feast before the New Year's calendar, this is unusual, but it makes the Dark World and even the world government pay special attention to it. It was like a sense of depression before a storm, spreading over the sea, and many forces were keenly aware of a trace of unusual meaning, and the undercurrent was surging. Also in Wanokuni at this moment, although there is no usual most lively contest, there are bonfires with different characteristics lit up everywhere, and the residents gather around the bonfires to drink and revel, watch festival music and dance, and hold a grand ceremony banquet. Under the jubilant festival, some people had other thoughts and did not gather together with the majority to frolic under the stage of the grand ceremony. Instead, he took this opportunity and slowly sneaked towards the research base in the forbidden area. According to their inquiries, the annual Flame Festival is the most relaxing place here. Here, someone has already met them. That was a soldier wearing a special guard uniform, and he was also one of the guards in charge of guarding this area. It's like a sneaky secret transaction, taking over the huge amount of money in the hands of those 4 people. The soldiers looked around as if pretending to be ignorant, and after confirming that there was no one there, they gave the other party a few sets of special guard costumes and let the 4 of them sneak in. It wasn't until the other party went deep for a while that the guard took out the phone bug, dialed the contact person and said respectfully, "Master Robin, you have been released." The 4 people who entered the scientific research base were unaware of the changes in the outside situation. Instead, as if he had never seen the world, he looked up the various technological equipment, instruments and facilities around him curiously. Curious and pleasantly surprised at the same time, because as expected, there were no other scientists around, and they all went to the fire festival outside for the time being. In this way, the risk of being discovered can be greatly reduced, even if they have changed into guard clothes. Until one of them reminded, "Okay, we don't have much time, we have to take advantage of this great opportunity to find that treasure. If we are found, we will be punished by Shingba." As soon as these words came out, the rest of the people thought of something, trembled in fear, and then quickly searched for something in front of these instruments. Stupid. How can something that can make people live forever in this first room? Isn't there an open door here? One of the 4 spoke suddenly, and the rest just noticed a double alloy door lying open. They didn't even have any thought of prudence, and under the tension of racing against time, the 4 of them walked towards it directly. After turning the corner, their vision changed, and they immediately noticed the frightening thing, and they couldn't help but startled. "This? What is this? A giant? What's the situation?" In the center of the front, under a huge infusion culture device, there was a strong green-haired woman about 10 meters in length, who was soaked in it. In front of the instrument, there is also a notice of the sign. 2 of them couldn't help walking forward, noticed the sign on the notice, and couldn't help but read aloud, "Human Body Giantization Experiment. Normal human beings are cultivated into giants." His mouth followed his eyes, but before he finished reading, he couldn't help but feel a huge shock in his heart, and stepped back a few steps in unacceptable panic. It seems to have discovered a big event. It's terrible. It's better to leave as if you don't know anything. The 2 couldn't help but hastily backed away, forcefully looking away from the terrifying female giant. The next moment, the voices of the other 2 followed closely. "Come and see, we found, pure gold is here." Apart from whispered conversations, there was a sudden sound of objects hitting the ground in the extremely silent research room. The 2 who shouted to find the pure gold suddenly noticed that the other 2 companions who were watching the giant had collapsed to the ground at some point. There was obviously no sign of anyone around. Call. The sound of air being slid suddenly came from the ear. Immediately afterwards, the head was suddenly hit by a terrible heavy hammer, and the 2 of them also followed the signs of being knocked out by the hammer. Under such circumstances, there is no one in the environment. As if the environment had been recolored, the camouflage effect flickered in the air, and Baby 5, wearing a combat-made outfit, appeared with a weapon in hand. After knocking out all the infiltrators, BABY5 went to the training platform for the experiment of gigantic human body, and turned off the machine. The potion-like liquid faded away until it disappeared to the bottom, and the delicate alloy glass unfolded to both sides. Among them, the female giant suddenly opened her eyes that had been closed all the time, and then moved the communication device for mouth, nose and breathing with her hands with difficulty, and walked out of the huge infusion tank. The huge body of nearly 10 meters is slowly returning to the normal world of 2 or 3 meters. "Sandersonia, how do you feel?" Baby 5 asked with a smile, obviously teasing. "Ah, it's really uncomfortable, soaking in this instrument for an hour or 2. As if due to maintaining one movement for a long time, Sandersonia rubbed her shoulders up and down with some soreness. Since the elder sister Boa Hancock became the emperor of Amazon Lily, the 2 sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, naturally followed suit and continued to become stronger. Especially with the experience of being arrested and taken away because of his weakness, he became more and more hardworking after accepting Wanokuna's high-intensity systematic and mechanized training. Now, like Boa Hancock, she has become the 3 strongest women in Amazon Lily, possessing a strength that is much higher than that of the Red Sheath Warrior. Among them, Sandersonia, the second younger sister of Hancock, was given the reward of the first competition due to her outstanding physical skills in armed color, and Koshiro returned in the form of the human fruit, Phantom Beast, and Great Enlightenment. Its ability not only has the unique power of Zone, and the ability to improve the high-intensity quality of the body, but also has the blessing changes of the Phantom Beast species. The form of Dao Dao is the giant form that just appeared, which can make itself bigger and has a huge body like a giant. Under the development of Sandersonia, it can even become as huge as a mountain tens of meters, and this is not the limit. This is the third powerful ability of the Amazon Lily Fortress, which is a forbidden area, that has not been exposed to the sea. So these people are the part that will be abandoned by Master Moda? Sandersonia looked at the group of people who had been sentenced to death. Even if it is militarized, general-oriented management, and a large population, the levels of good and bad are still somewhat different. And these people can naturally be discarded by Moda as self-destruct soldiers. I don't know, everything has to wait for Sister Robin to make judgment. However, trespassing into the forbidden area without authorization and buying the guards is already a death penalty. I know at my age, how can these people be so stupid? Even though Baby 5 said so, he walked up to these people and kicked them hard a few times without any politeness. If it is not still at the age of a girl, it is equipped with fireworks decorations, and it still has the demeanor of a gangster big sister. After all, for these people, the benefits of immortality are enough for them to take this huge risk. An intellectual voice answered Baby 5's opinion, and a tall figure slowly walked in from the outside. Miss Robin. Lord Robin. Seeing the person coming, BABY5 and Sandersonia immediately spoke up. You all performed well, and I have already paid attention to it with my ability. Robin said with a smile. Whether it is pure gold or the human body giant experiment, Big Mom can be included. As long as Big Mom is allowed to take the initiative to attack, then the war can basically be won with less loss. Hearing Robin's praise, Sandersonia smiled and touched her head and said, it would be great if my ability could reach Moda's level. Whether it is the kindness of saving their sisters many years ago, or Amazon Lily's obligation as a part of Wanokuna's subjects, it is equivalent to the identity of the Queen's brother-in-law. Sandersonia will do its best to serve and realize any request that is beneficial to Moda. Different from Sandersonia's various connections, BABY5 has only the most direct and only necessary relationship. Hearing Robin's praise is more a matter of course than an honor. Compared to these, the next big battle is what I want to show Master Moda. Baby 5 said slowly and confidently. Don't look at her age of 13 now, except for the 2-color hockey training place. As the main place for strength development, it has been in the research base for a long time, not only to match the strength of technological evolution, but also to stay with this group of scientists for a long time, and the knowledge and brainpower have also been significantly improved. So do we Amazon Lilies. Feeling that Baby 5's speech is more in line with momentum, Sandersonia also said tightly. I will convey it to Lord Moda. Robin nodded with a chuckle, and then walked to the door. After a security check of fingerprints and face scanning, this floor was specially placed in the outer room, and moved by the suspension device to apply for the confidential core area again. Although it is just a layout, there are some things that are not yet suitable for those peripheral scientists who have not come back to touch. After finishing these follow-ups, Robin said to the 2 women, then I should go back and report on this matter, and you should also take advantage of this to enjoy the fire festival, and it won't be long before the tense time before the battle. After speaking, Robin took these chess pieces and left. As one of the only 2 generals, Robin's extensive knowledge of the world will help her transform as a military advisor off the battlefield. This is not even Moda's arrangement, but Robin's icing on the self-exploding bomb after he was authorized. Especially after learning from the Shadow Guard's powerful intelligence network that Charlotte Linland's 35th daughter has the ability to remember fruits, a rough plan came out. It is no secret in New World that Big Mom desires to enlarge the human body. With pure gold in such a big gift, as long as Big Mom can be tempted to fight from Cake Island, then they will be able to gain an advantage before taking action. This is not only a geographical deprivation of advantages, but also a weakening of Big Mom's available soul reserve sources for the entire world. As the general manager, Robin firmly believed that the omnipotent general would definitely be able to win this imperial battle. As a military strategist, Robin needs to think about it, so that this imperial battle-level victory can be won in a more relaxed form. She knows that the new wave caused by Wanokuni is not just to the extent of designing a 4 emperors, especially to the extent that it will soon swallow the entire world with a big appetite. The joyful scene of the fire festival is in full swing. After Robin arranged everything in an orderly manner, with the approval of Moda, an electromagnetic floating yacht headed towards the edge of Toto Land Sea area at a visible and extremely fast speed. The new energy airship developed by new technology is equipped with powerful acceleration electric power. It may take a few days of travel, but now it only takes half a day to arrive at Koco Island, the nearest island of all nations in the Wanokuni Sea area. Although it has the name of an island and its size is the largest in the world, it is only a town at best, so the floating boat at high altitude was quickly noticed by the people in the town. What it is? Flying ships? Could it be? Before the island below could react, the sky suddenly darkened. Yamato stood high in the sky, her beautiful white hair was blown by the howling strong wind. Different from his lively and gorgeous appearance, Yamato looked down indifferently at this moment. She raised her hands, as if connected to the dark clouds in the sky. A high-voltage current burst out suddenly from the surface of the body. The electric arc continuously condensed, completely repelling the damage of lightning, and after the rapid condensing in Yamato's palm, he lifted it violently. The arc turned into a materialized thunderbolt and rushed into the sky. Phew! Boom! The incomparably hot thunderlight burst into the sky, turning the dark clouds into the form of lightning and thunder, as if thousands of terrifying and intertwined electric currents gathered in them instantly. The flickering thunder that almost filled the sky brought a strong sense of visual impact to everyone in Koco Island. Among them, the guards who are in charge of rotating Koco Island are naturally included. It's an enemy attack. Everyone spread out and hide, and send a message to Cake Island. While shouting loudly, without any hesitation, Yamato raised his hand and swung it down. Wanlei. Boom. The entangled terrifying thunderbolt instantly turned into thousands of berserk thunderbolts, and crashed down in a dazzling and ferocious manner. The ground was shattered, and many buildings collapsed in an instant. When the countless fragments were flying, they were struck by other thunderbolts and turned into dust. The bursting airwave instantly formed a real shockwave, sweeping away everything. The ashes and dust spread across the island at an extremely fast speed. In just a few minutes, under the baptism of Wanlei, most of the buildings on Koco Island were directly turned into ruins. New World, Cake Island. The main base camp of the Big Mom Pirates. Damn Moda brat. How dare someone come and act wildly on my territory? Is he trying to start a war? At this moment, Charlotte Linlin's rage spread throughout the entire island, and even the weather was affected. Inside the Cake Castle, all kinds of life-endowed soul creatures homies are very sensitive to the emotions that Charlotte Linlin erupted, and they are curled up and trembling at the moment. The weird entertainment atmosphere of singing and dancing is gone, for fear that he will be eaten alive by the angry Yuan Luoti Linlin. Outside the hall, many children, headed by Perispero and Compote, all looked solemn and fearful, without saying a word. Their eyes were fixed on the inside of the September 17th. Among them, the biological mother who gave them life, in their eyes at this moment, is like a ferocious and terrifying creature, and even in a trance, there is a black mist visible to the naked eye, constantly surging out from inside. That's Charlotte Linlin's emotional outbursts combined with the deterrent conqueror's embodiment of nimble fruit. At this time, if anyone enters it, they may be given a very terrible soul spell, and their lifespan will be ruthlessly deprived directly. It's rare that my mother is so angry again. The last time was the situation after Katakori's big brother lost in Mermaid Island. Fortunately, Lola is not yet an adult and has not served as the minister to Koco Island, otherwise we may lose a sister. It's all the fault of that flying general. Why is it always the same as us? Because of such a horrible situation, many people vented their fear and dissatisfaction on the culprit. Looking at the brothers and sisters around him, Smoothie leaned against the wall with his arms around his chest and said, "In a place like New World, isn't everything done for profit? Instead of complaining here, why not think about it? It's better to think of ways to appease mother's anger." Hearing Smoothie's words, although many family members showed dissatisfaction on their faces, no one dared to attack. After all, even family members have always relied on strength to speak in the Big Mom Pirates, but the last time Katakori made a mistake and made his mother angry, didn't he get punished in any way? Although Smoothie is considered young and middle-aged among this group of children, his strength is uncompromising, and the other party is now the second in command of the Desert Four Generals. And thinking of the Desert Four Generals, the Charlotte family present couldn't help but think of the man in the core stock. Just as the idea was born, a tall man with short amaranth red hair walked in from the outside at this time, with several men tied up with glutinous rice balls in their hands. Under the watchful eyes of many brothers and sisters, Katakuri raised these people up and said, "They are the culprits of this incident, the guys who caused trouble on our territory." Katakuri. Did you actually capture them? These are air generals, Perispero couldn't help but exclaimed. From the torture, they are no longer from that side. Moreover, even if it is Whitebeard's son who is causing trouble on the territory of our kingdom, there is no reason to let him go, Katakuri said calmly. There was a thought that he had noticed for a long time, but he didn't say it clearly. After the failure of the Cake Island incident at the last tea party, his group of family members seemed to have a vigilance and fear towards Moda. Boom. Boom. There was a slight trembling sound on the ground, but the furious Charlotte Linlin noticed the Nuotuan being thrown into the hall. Katakuri. Charlotte Linlin's cold voice sounded, and Katakuri immediately said, "Mom, these are the people who made trouble in our 10,000 kingdoms a few days ago." Hearing this, Charlotte Linlin stared at the group of people wrapped in glutinous rice balls, her eyes became scarlet, and the veins on her forehead were also exposed. It was as if an invisible aura spread, and immediately after the bodies of this group of people, strange spirit bodies began to separate from their bodies. "We didn't destroy the island. Don't kill me, Master Big Mom, I can surrender to you." "Yes, we know a secret that will definitely interest you." Knowing that Charlotte Linlin has the ability to extract the lifespan of others, the group immediately panicked and begged for mercy. After hearing the begging words of these people, Charlotte Linlin did not lose her mind and immediately extract the soul, but said in a cold tone, "What's going on? Tell my mother clearly." The group of people looked at each other, and then picked out the most eloquent person by default, and let him explain. "A few days ago, we accidentally learned that a scientific researcher possessed a kind of information called pure gold. It is said that as long as people have it, even a small piece, they can make people live forever. In order to survive, this person made a long story short, but expressed the meaning to a certain extent." Charlotte Linlin was silent for a while, and then said in a deep voice, "Pudding." Under her call, a little girl with bangs covering her forehead and double ponytails came out. "Give me their memories and watch." Pudding, who was afraid of Charlotte Linlin, didn't dare to neglect, so he trotted up to the group of people, and directly put his hand into their heads, extracting all the memories the other party said like a film. After taking out the memory films one by one, and then retaining the complete storyline, Pudding handed over the memory films to Charlotte Linlin. Taking these memory films that can't be lied to, checking, Charlotte Linlin didn't let go of the memories of the other people. Immediately afterwards, her anger also slowly decreased, and then materialized greed gushed out of her body. What did she see? Charlotte Linlin couldn't help exclaiming, "Pure gold! Human body giant experiment."